go, you think? Okay. Testing. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. My name is Ellen Fox. I happen to be the HOA president this year, and I want to thank you all for coming. As you know, we're celebrating 30 years of HOA volunteers, a 100% volunteer organization that's done over the last 30 years a tremendous amount of great things. I'd just like to start by acknowledging and recognizing we've got some pretty distinguished guests here to wish us well as an organization. We have Lowell Russell, he'll speak later, Jeff Harris, Jimmy Matlock, Henry Cullen, David Mears. We've also we'll be joined later by Buddy Bradshaw and a video from Tony Aiken. And then we've also got a lot of the POA board here. So I just want to thank Bruce Johnson, Rick Blau, Steve Schneider, Pat White. And if I missed anybody, just wave at me. With the lights a little blinding, it's sometimes hard to see. Thank you very much for coming. So as we usually do, we are live streaming this thanks to the generosity of the community church, and we're also going to be recording it. So in maybe about a week, you'll see it on the HOA website and broken into manageable pieces for viewing purposes, and you can view it there. So we'd like to start today by inviting up Pastor Devin, and once again, just acknowledging how generous the community church at Tellico Village is to let us use this fabulous facility, help us record this, etc. Pastor?
Well, thank you all, and thank you for being here. It's a celebration that we have here today. What month actually did the HOA start? January. So it's 9 months older than I am. So congratulations. I knew y'all would love that. Well, let us pray. Well, Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us. We're thankful for all that have gathered here, for each mind, each heart that fills this place. God, we're all seeking the betterment of this community, and for that we thank you. We're thankful for this village, for this organization, for the 30 years of residents working together for the betterment of one another, for the betterment of this community. God, you've blessed us with so much. Anyone who calls this place home has certainly been blessed, and Father, with so many in need, we see that blessing abundantly. So God, spurn us to use our blessing for good, not for selfish gain. Empower us to serve those in need and to look beyond ourselves. We pray that you bless this meeting today, all those present, as well as the lives of those we encounter afterward. God, ready us to make every moment count. It's in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
So this is a kind of different general meeting. I would say they're usually very, very informative, but there's a little more fun in this one as a way of celebrating our 30th anniversary. So when you walked in, you should have received a trivia sheet. And it's open to all current HOA members, or if you want to join before July 5th and forgot to join so far, we'll also take your trivia answers and let you be part of the contest. Not that we're ever trying to grow membership, but so during this meeting, some of the answers to the questions are going to be given. But not all of them are going to be given during the meeting, so we're going to test your knowledge of a little bit about Tellico Village. And some of the harder questions we're assuming will help eliminate any of the ties. At the end of the meeting, please drop off your completed trivia boxes. There is a cooler marked for trivia responses out in the foyer and a cardboard box you'll see out there. And over the next few weeks, we're going to evaluate and look at those, and there will be one winner per household. We'll contact you, and we'll announce it in Tellico Life. And just to let the elected HOA board members know, none of us are eligible for it, so we get disqualified from that. I'm now going to turn it over to the gentleman who is the mastermind behind today's general meeting and has just done a tremendous amount of research to help us learn more about our history of HOA. Ken Lickey.
Right behind.
Thanks.
Am I on? Okay. Must be doing something right because I just noticed you guys are watching this, looking this way, but it was raining like crazy a few minutes ago. So I'm sure glad it held off when you were thinking about coming here because, but thanks to all of you coming today. And I want to welcome everyone to this special 30th anniversary celebration, and hopefully it'll be a lot of fun and learn something as well. Before coming here tonight, I was discussing my presentation with my wife Sylvia, sitting out there, and asked for any advice she might have. And she said, don't try to be too charming, too witty, or too intellectual. Just be yourself. I don't know. I hope she was just kidding. I don't know. But now, armed with those words of encouragement and support, let's start with a simple question. Why are we all here today? And I don't mean at this meeting, but why did we all choose to live here in Tellico Village? And the good people at Tellico Village Broadcasting have put together a short video which I think provides the answer for most of us is why we're here today. Oh, you didn't? Yeah, there's the prizes for the trivia. Okay, some good prizes. Okay. think that answers the question why we all are living here. Beautiful. It's truly a beautiful place with wonderful amenities and filled with great people. But Tellico Village obviously didn't happen overnight, what we enjoy today. I do want to thank Gary Stoll from the TVB who put that video together. In putting together this presentation today, I talked to numerous villagers. And while doing this, I was struck by a couple main important things. It's one, the interesting history of the special place by the lake, and two, how important volunteerism has been in everybody's lives and the role played in the success of this village. And hopefully the presentation we're doing today will help some relive those memories to those who lived here a long time, provide some history and interesting stories to the newcomers, and recognize the contributions to the village by the original pioneers and the many volunteers of the HOA over the years to bring us where we are today and hopefully have some fun along the way. But if we're going to talk about what makes this place so special today, we need to go back much further in time, and so that's what we'll do. So fasten your seatbelts, and here we go. Who else besides me is from Michigan? Okay. Quite a few people here. Well, long before we retired and came to Tellico Village, another group from Michigan were way ahead of us. Approximately 10,000 BC, Paleolithic Indians moved from their way of Michigan area into the wilderness surrounding the Tennessee River Valley. And eventually they became the Cherokee Indians. So the Cherokee Indians claimed the Little Tennessee River as their own. They believed it was a special river, and it brought them purification to the soul and body as well as providing food and transportation. They located their villages along the shores, some of which carried names familiar to modern-day Tellico villages, such as Chota, Tokwa, Tomatli, Tanasi, Chattooga, Coyote, and Kahiti. Now, we'll get a little more specific on names. Tokwa. Those of you who have played the Tokwa golf course recently have seen they changed their tee markers. You may wonder why they had a fish on them. Well, Tokwa means great fish. So this is a picture of the tee, the black tee, and believe me, I'm not familiar with using the black tees, except I took this picture. That's the only reason I was there, okay? Tanasi is the name of a town with the capital of the Cherokee Nation, and it's where the name Tennessee comes from. And then Kahiti, this is something I found out was very interesting. It's also a Cherokee name. It's said to mean run them off, which we know is not true because the Kahitians are very friendly people, but that's what it means. Okay. So where did the name Tellico come from? All right, Tellico Village. Great Tellico was one of the largest Cherokee towns in the region at the site of the present-day Tellico Plains, Tennessee, where the Tellico River emerged from the Appalachian Mountains. And they had a sister town nearby named Chattooga. Again, very familiar names. And Tellico can be spelled many different ways, and we've seen it several different places around the village. But it means where the open place where the grass grows. So that's where the name came from. Okay. So now we've been talking about Tellico Village and Cherokee names. I must admit, while doing research for this talk today, that I did not uncover the name or names of the people who thought naming all the streets Indian names was a fantastic idea. You know, perhaps they're now in the FBI Witness Protection Program. I don't know. But this lasting legacy continues to be a source of great amusement for Tellico Village homeowners. That's one of my favorite names, Oguku. So enjoy this.
Sue Kimball, what is the name of the street you live on in the village?
I live on Chahyga Way.
Spell it fast.
Chahyga.
Not to be confused with cha-cha-cha, right?
Correct. But you have to say way on the other end of it because we don't want to confuse it with Chahiga Circle or Chahiga Trace.
Oh, there's a lot of those.
That's right.
Gail Link, what is your street name in the village?
We live on Ulino Way.
Gotcha. Ulino Drive, right?
Oh, no. Ulino, there is no drive, there is no lane, or there is a lane, excuse me, there is a trace. We are on Way.
The way to what?
Oh, Ulino Way.
What is the name of your street in Tellico Village?
We live on Tadegwa Lane.
Whoa, that's a mouthful. How do you spell it?
We usually have to spell it twice. Tuhdegwa. And they say, what? And I say, Tuhdegwa.
Kind of has a little rhyme to it. Can GPS find you?
Always, it's Tadegwa Lane, not Trace, not Tadegwa Way. So we're on Tadegwa Lane in Tellico Village.
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
Sonny Reinhardt, what street do you live on in the village?
Tala Way.
Tallaway. How do you spell that?
T-A-L-A-H. Easy.
Is it way?
It's a way. Oh, there's a lane and there's a trace. Don't go on those.
Don't go on those. Do you know what it means?
I have no idea.
It actually means rain frog in Cherokee.
Rain frog. Well, that makes sense because we have a lot of frogs in our pond. It makes sense now.
Carol Moore.
Yes, hey, how you doing?
Good. So where do you live in the village?
I live on Chattooga Way.
Can you spell that?
Chattuga Way. There's a way, a lane, a trace. There's all kinds of Chattoogas. I got lost my first few months.
Ooh, do you know the meaning of Chattooga?
I have no idea.
It actually means, in Cherokee, rock outcrop.
Okay, that's an interesting word. We have a lot of rocks in our backyard, so perhaps that's where it came from.
Pete Kraslowski,
Yes, ma'am.
where do you live in Tellico Village?
I'm Tanasi.
Ooh, that's pretty easy, actually. What does it mean?
I don't know, the Indians couldn't spell Tennessee.
Aha. So, do you ever have problems giving directions to people how to get to your house?
Oh no, I tell them to turn on cheese, and then flip over to Oosta.
JJ Jorgensen, tell us the name of the street you live on in Tellico Village.
My wife and I live on Bokoshe Circle.
Ooh, how do you spell that?
Bokoshe.
Do people get lost coming to your house?
Not very often because Bokoshe Circle is right off Tellico Parkway.
By any chance, do you know what that means in
Not
Cherokee?
by chance, but by research. In fact, they do know what Bokoshe means. It means Little Creek in Choctaw, and the Choctaw are a spin-off tribe of the Cherokee.
Aha.
And I wish I lived on Mingo. M-I-N-G-O. You don't have to spell that one.
Okay, well, thanks to Lisa McCrae and Annette Schmidt for creating that video. I think it's pretty funny. But I've also heard that so many names have more modern translation definitions. Perhaps one you've heard of is Mialaqua. It's near the hardware store, right? No? Just me? Okay. Okay, in the interest of time, we're going to make another major time jump. But if you're interested in history of this period, you can. There's a lot of great museums and parks close to us in Von Orr, the Fort Loudon State Historic Park and the Sequoia Birthplace Museum. Get a chance, check them out. So we're going to fast forward to 1933. And then what happened then of importance to Tellico Village? Well, that's when President Roosevelt signed the Tennessee Valley Authority Act on May 18, 1933, which established TVA. Okay, TVA and Tellico Dam, how they are related. Well, in the 1930s and 40s, TVA envisioned a community around the body of water that became the Tellico Reservoir. And in the late 50s, early 60s, they started disclosing that they were going to build, creating a Tellico Dam. And in the mid-60s, they actually went and purchased 35,000 acres of land around the Little Tennessee River. But finally, it took into 1979, the project was finally approved by Congress after about a 3-year delay caused by the snail darter. Now, I wasn't living here at the time, but I remember the snail darter. Most of you probably do too, the controversy around that. That delayed it. But the river was impounded starting in late 79, and the lake filled in 1980. So we need to thank all our local politicians who had the foresight to see what this development could become, what we all enjoy today. Now, if you want to learn more history about the area before it was flooded, there's a lot of great information in the library. There was a heritage project done, updated for the 25th anniversary, and there's some videos online, and it's very interesting things. This is a picture of Davis Ferry at Tenasseee Point, the actual ferry there. So these names had meanings. Okay, the beginnings of Tellico Village. In 1982, the state and TVA created the TRDA. Lots of abbreviations, but that's the Tennessee River Development Agency, TRDA. And they signed the deed of transfer title of the property in late 1982. In 83, Cooper Communities presented a proposal to TRDA to develop the entire site that would become Tellico Village. In 85, there was a public celebration and ribbon cutting of the Tellico Village in June of 1985. But not all were thrilled by this development. The TRDA office was destroyed by arson the following Tuesday night. So some were happy, some were not so happy. And here's a little fun fact. The original name for this project was Timberlake. That's when Boeing Company, the aerospace company, was involved with it. They didn't go through with it, but the project was going to be called Timberlake. We could have been called Timberlake instead of Tellico Village. So now the start of POA and Tellico Village. In December of 85, the POA was formed. In March 1986, the first home site was sold. An interesting fact again, a Maryville newspaper executive bought the first lot, and he never built on it. Don't know why. In February 6, 1987, the first family moves into Tellico Village, and other residents followed very quickly, much more quickly than the developer was prepared for. So in that very first year, Cooper Communities rushed to complete roads and install utilities in the Toco and Choteau neighborhoods. It also worked to construct a visitor complex and Toco Golf Course. The pace was hectic as private builders were putting up houses as fast as roads and utilities became available. And at that time, Tellico Village was operated by a president and general manager employed by Cooper of Bentonville, Arkansas. But the POA consisted of 5 members employed by Cooper who lived in Arkansas and only came here once a month to Tellico Village. Again, if you want to dig deeper into this, there are many references. This happens to be on Tellico Life. So you go to Tellico Life and click into these. So let's talk about the pioneers and the forming of the HOA. Many of the early pioneers, residents, were faced with no paved streets, no sewer or water systems in their area, and a grievance list went on and on and on. The monthly assessments were only $25 back then, and golf was unlimited, free. But it was not enough money to cover costs. So they found themselves concerned about representation on the POA board, about the construction and maintenance of roads and other facilities, and about the cost of financing of operations. Very similar to what goes on today, obviously. I mean, they were trying to build roads, we're trying to maintain roads. You know, the water, trying to maintain. It's kind of the same topic, but in a different way of looking at it. On Christmas Eve in 1987, Vince and Paula Matthews held a Christmas party in their 6-month-old home, and they created an organization called the Pioneers. And with membership limited to people who built their home in the first year, 52 families in total. And on December 88, more than 50 people turned out for the yacht club meeting regarding the formation of a homeowners association. The very first meeting of the homeowners association was Thursday, January 12th, 1989. There were 40 paid members at start, and the dues were $5 per family. So the first officers and the purpose of the HOA. Let's see here. So just one second here. Okay, so the first officer, the purpose of the HOA, Bub Berger was president. He was actually elected when he was on vacation in Florida. And then Arts Berger was vice president, and we'll talk a little more about Arts Berger later on. But the HOA tackled issues, and the issues were utilities, water, and sewer lines, a need for paved roads, and a water tower to ensure proper water pressure in those early days. HOA also watched over the assessments levied by and expenditures of the Cooper-dominated board at the time, and they acted as a quasi-chamber of commerce promoting the village. They eventually did persevere, and homeowners did get a voice on the board. They also worked heavily on ownership of 444. It wasn't called 444 back then, but and nobody wanted ownership of it. And that was a much longer task to get that accomplished. Here's one of the early newsletters, The Hawk, where it shows Tellico Village POA board was expanded to 7 people at that time. So success. Okay. So at this point, we've introduced the pioneers, but let's actually sit with two of them, of course, and let's hear about some of their stories about when they first came to Tellico Village and how they actually ended up being here. So please welcome Don and Pat Kegley, pioneer. As you can see, they're charter members. They had the first house built on the lake. So they weren't the first house, but the first house built on the lake in March of 1987. So, Don, prior to moving here, you were living in Ohio. What brought you to Tennessee?
Well, I took a job.
Is it on?
Am I on? I took a job with a company in Ohio. They told me it was a great company. I found out if we're going to survive, we're going to have to move, and it wasn't going to be north. I looked at several states over a 9-month period, and when I got to this area, the decision was pretty easy. It was a right-to-work state, which was important to a company, 16.5% unemployment at that time, low land costs, at least compared to up north, power rates were favorable, and we were blessed with great highways from our point of view in business. East-west 40, north-south 75. We ended up building a plant next to Sea Ray in the industrial park in Monroe County. Sea Ray was the first plant in there, and we were the second. I had actually got to name some of the streets there. Our company was National Drive, or National Seating, so naturally we were on National Drive. And then another one was Excellence Way. But it was a great experience.
So how did the factory move turn out for you?
Oh, fantastic. For example, we took applications for 3 days, and we had to get the highway patrol in to control the traffic. With 16.5% unemployment in Monroe County at that time, 10,000 applications came to us in 3 days, and we had some fantastic people. State troopers were out there to take care of all the traffic. I think, as was mentioned earlier, the TRDA office was burned down. Not everybody was in favor of this development going forward, but it's done so much for this area, and certainly we're beneficiaries of that also here.
Okay, so that's how you came to Tennessee, but how did you find out about Tellico Village?
Well, there was a house in Madisonville. We were renting a house there, and TRDA reps said that you might want to hold off getting a permanent place. We're talking to a company in Arkansas called Cooper Communities, and I felt that that would be a good suggestion. We just hold off and take a look at that.
Great. So choosing to live in Tellico Village must have been a big leap of faith at that time, considering nothing here.
That was really a no-brainer for the following reasons. I looked out in this area, you have lake, you have the mountains, the people were great, and it was a beautiful place. That's a no-brainer in my ballpark.
Well, it's certainly not the situation today. It's still a beautiful place, but you don't have you pick of where to live.
Well, we had our choice of lots. That was pretty nice, too.
I understand there weren't even roads at the time. How'd you even see your lot?
Well, we were kind of locked out. We had a pontoon boat at the marina down by Calhoun's, and Pat and I would get out every chance we had, and we would either go fishing or look. Once we knew we had a lot opportunity here, we started looking at it in a different way. And one day we were coming along and looked up there, and there was a fantastic view from the main channel, and it was up on a slope, and the people up there riding horses. I'm telling you, that pontoon headed right for that corner and went up on shore a little bit. We walked up there. That was it. We knew where our lot was going to be.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to comprehend this picture compared to how it looks today. How'd you feel about being the first to develop this pristine and beautiful site?
I got it. Actually, what I said to Don while we were driving around in the boat, this place is much too beautiful for anybody to be building anything on, but if they were going to build on it, I wanted that lot.
Great. So once you picked your lot, how did your planning and construction go?
Well, I think people building houses in the village right now have it a little easier than we did because we were the first, there were so many confusing rules and nobody knew who was in charge and everybody was trying to claim jurisdiction and make the rules. For example, we had the first geothermal heating and cooling system on the lake. They didn't really understand how it worked, and the water came out of a well through our house and into the lake. And they said nothing can go into the lake. At that point, nothing could. And so we had to have the water tested to see if it was pure. It was. And they said, well, you're going to have it tested every month. And it was about, as we remember, about $150 a test, and we didn't do that.
Well, based upon that confusion, did you have any run-ins with the various authorities at the time?
You got to be kidding. One of the first things that happened is we built a boat dock, and we found out that Cooper thought it was too long, and they said you can't have it out that far. And I said, I got Army Corps of Engineers approval. Well, you can't do it. Well, I'm not changing it. Well, you're suspended. Well, big deal. We didn't have anything. There was nothing here.
Well, I also understand the roads weren't even paved at the time. Did that cause you any problems?
Well, yeah, some fun once in a while. I would come over to check on how our construction was going, and I'd come in at the west end on Toqua Road, which was the first road. And they had put on top of this smooth clay some gravel. Well, that got pushed down into the soil. But anyway, I got my town car, and I want to check and see how the construction's going. So those of you familiar with the golf course, At 10, there's a pond. And I almost put my Lincoln in the pond because it had rained that morning, and as you know, with the clay,
Yeah.
you might as well be on ice.
And that must have been a sight.
Yeah, that was fun.
In addition to few paved roads, I know some struggle in the beginning with no sewer or water systems in their area. So you were really all pioneers in a lot of areas. Here's a picture of Pat sitting on her, sitting at her home. It's being built, and actually she told me later on that's actually the kitchen, and that's why she's eating some Kentucky Fried Chicken. She's in the kitchen. And although she doesn't know who this is, I think she's the true pioneer woman.
Actually, there were about 50 pioneer women that year, and the following year, in 1988, a lot more moved in, and they called themselves the Sons of the Pioneers.
So Pat, it must have been very strange living out there all by yourself with no people, no stores, no restaurants. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the thing that struck me most, because there was nothing, there were no houses, there were no businesses, nobody had built, was the total darkness. If you came in from Lenore City on the road and looked up ahead of you, you saw nothing but black. If there was a moon out, you could see the roads and go to the area, but other than that, it was just total blackness. When the Texaco station was built, we just celebrated. It was a really big thing. Before that, we had to drive to Lenore City or Madisonville to get bread and milk, and there was no pizza in the entire area.
Horrible.
We had to go to Dixie Lee Junction to get a pizza. But it was very isolated and very lonely for a while.
Okay, let's talk a moment about the pioneers and volunteers to close out. Could you tell me a little bit how it was like back then?
Everyone was so active back then. We had many issues, but people stepped up and they volunteered and they helped out, and they started many of the organizations that are still there today. An example was a man named Art Spurrier. Now, Art was the first vice president of the HOA and the second president served 2 years. He even started the church that we're in today. We met for the first time in his home for a little church service. Art would call on the phone, and you'd pick it up, and he'd say, "Hello, beautiful." He called all the women beautiful, and I'd say, "Art, what is it you're wanting?" Because I knew immediately he was looking for help with something. Since everything wasn't here, everyone stepped up and did what they could. I'd been a teacher all my life, so the library was very important to me. We actually had a library start in the corner of the yacht club, and it was paperback book exchanges, and then it moved on from there, and we helped. It was important to us, so we provided the start for the Kegley Children's Corner at the library. This was important to us. You're next.
I just want to let everybody know, and I mean this sincerely. I mean it like I mean it. We've been proud members of the HOA since the very beginning, and HOA became the voice of those that lived here, keeping us informed of what was going on, the important issues of the time, and they were very instrumental in providing the social fabric that made life here so meaningful. We need volunteers very badly. We encourage everyone to join, to get involved in your community, as the pioneers did when they first came to this village so many years ago. Without volunteers, we wouldn't have anything. And if it stops, I'm going to be over here in the columbarium and I'm going to be raising hell with you people. I shouldn't have said that. I was in church, but that's the way I feel.
Well,
You can't leave it to everybody else.
Well, thank you for being so passionate, everything you did, being pioneers. And I want to thank both of you for being here today, Pat, and thank you. Okay, very good. Okay. Well, as I just said, today's villagers owe all the pioneers a big debt of gratitude for founding the HOA and getting involved in protecting investment of those residing in the Tellico Village. In recognition, the pioneers were honored with a lifetime HOA membership in 2012 by then President of the HOA, Rick Blau. And there's a picture of the certificate they received. So now we're bring up Jeff Gabby now, the jovial workaholic. I found this in one of the old newspapers, and I think it's true. Here you go. So right there.
Thanks, sir.
Move along a little faster if you can.
Okay. I want to thank the HOA for inviting me up here to do this. It's very, very great honor to have. And Winston, you were wrong. Lightning didn't strike me when I got up here. Okay. Well, I started out as a director of public works with Tellico Village in 1990, but I started with the village in 1986, so I've been here for a little bit. Right here is the Tokwa Clubhouse, artist rendering of what they envisioned it to be, and it turned out pretty much like they had the envision for it to be. Actually, it was going to have a cart barn underneath it, but the elevations and grades didn't allow it to happen, and they abandoned that really quickly because I found the wall the first of the year when I was digging the footers for the new Tokwa Clubhouse. So this is the cart barn, or the Tokwa Golf Maintenance Building back in the woods. To the left of that would be the cart barn and the clubhouse. To the right, we built a new maintenance building several years later because they outgrew that one quite rapidly. I don't play a lot of golf, but I always know where number 18 is on Tokwa. I think it looks a little bit better this year, or this time, than it did back there in 1987. Chris Sykes is doing an excellent job on it. This is the Yacht Club artist rendering. It is taken from the main channel. Beautiful facility. This is digging the footers on the Yacht Club. Rumor had it that it should have been 16 foot closer to the lake, but they got they read the grade stakes wrong and moved it back 16 foot. So it still managed to get in there just right, but it's all concrete and steel building. This is under construction, taken from, I believe it's the top of Chota Hills is where the picture was taken at. This is the construction crews that were putting it together. I don't know if anybody knew, but it had wooden shingles on it when it was first built, and they lasted for a very long time. Very beautiful architectural building. It's another picture from around the boardwalk on the back side. This is one of the engineers from Arkansas looking into the yacht club. Does anybody see anything strange about that? That's the top floor. Does anybody see anything going on there? There's a hole in that building. The yacht club library was actually located on the top floor in the corner behind the curtain where I always hide at during board meetings. When the developer built the yacht club, they built it for the wow, and they did great because the hole was all the way down through to the main floor. You could stand on the bottom floor and look all the way up through the lighthouse on top. It was a beautiful facility, but not very functional for doing very much. On the top floor, they envisioned a library, and back in the day before all this got banned, they were cigars going to be smoked upstairs. That went away fairly soon, I think. This is working on the wall around the atrium. That's his wife right there on the very right corner telling him to hurry up. And this is taken again from the Chota area. This is finishing up the landscape. I don't know if many of you know the late Frankie Fortner, but he did lots of landscaping in Tellico Village. And you could always tell the houses that Frankie did his work at because he'd always leave a piece of equipment there until the next job he had to go to. So you see, he left his dump truck sitting out in the front yard there for a while. Another beautiful picture of the yacht club back in 1993. This is the finished product of the atrium. You see on the top is the very top floor, then you got the dining room, and down on the right side on the bottom you have the dance floor. Didn't work out too well for us though. We wanted to have a nice place for everybody to be. If you had a function in the yacht club as it was at that point, it just about closed the whole thing down because you could hear everything from top to bottom. So it wasn't very functional for the POA. So in 1991, they decided to do some renovations on the yacht club, and they enclosed both the floors as they have it now to be able to have dining and meeting spaces up on the top floor. And I do remember the church being there at sometimes early on in the years on the top floor of the yacht club. The patio out back with guests on it, beautiful. A lot of people come over at that time. Then they had the buffets. For some reason, it draws everybody in when they have a buffet over there. I don't know what it is, maybe lots of free food or something. But you notice all the men coat and tie, that was a requirement in the dining area at that time. But I think that quickly got struck down as they didn't want to be doing that forever. They did that in their working life. Anybody know where this area is? Come on. One of the first POA endeavors. This is the beach. This is Tugaloo, where the beach pavilion is. That was one of the long-range planning's first projects they did. A lot of people wasn't too hip on the idea, but they thought, let's give it a try. It's a cheap thing to throw out there. Become one of the biggest hits that they've done in a long time, so it's a great asset to have in the village. This is the rendering of the north entrance. I won't tell you what some people call that, but we'll let that slide. You must know. This is it under construction back in the early days. And the south entrance, it wasn't always all that dirt down there. If you see on the top is a very flat area. Brought all the dirt in, buried a few Indians under there, then put the monument right on top of it. This is Topa Road, right on top of the hill over here at Oostanolly, looking back down towards the Texaco area. Cooper Communities business area on the right is the Cooper Homes. Lot sales is on the front. In the far back, you can see it was called the Handy Bar or something at that time, but that's where the Texaco is. Tanassi in the far background right there, what they're doing now, that's a state, and they're widening that area right there to put the turn lanes in to get into Tanassi. So it's a lot of activity going on by all parties involved. Kahiti, this is the first site of Kahiti. I remember when my former bosses from Cooper took me over there, nothing but soybeans. That's all I could see was soybeans. So they had a better vision for that than I did. So, sorry.
Thank you for.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, now I'll bring up Eddie Wilson, another pioneer. He's on a number of committees here that public, what's it called? Public? PSAC. PSAC, PSAC, and the Highway Safety Committee, and also a golfer extraordinaire. Tells some interesting stories about golf here in the village.
Thank you, Ken. Okay. I'll start off saying I met Jeff Gagley July the 7th, 1986. You think he made an impression on me? He was my inspector. I was doing the utility work here, putting in the water and sewer and power lines originally. So this is a picture of Chunalati in Tokwa about the time the HOA was started. And as the Kegley said, there was a real spirit of volunteerism here. And about everybody volunteered because there's nobody else to do things. We had to get the village going. My wife, Terry Wilson, started Walk and Talk, and I was on the golf committee originally then. And that sense of volunteerism morphed into the HOA. So I was fortunate enough in the grand opening of Tokwa Golf Course to be asked to play golf with Sam Snead. The gal on your right, Little, was 30 years younger and 30 pounds lighter and 30 shades of gray hair ago too. Sam played an exhibition match here in '88, and the top right picture of the folks on the left is Avery Petty, who used to sell lots here. The next person was a writer for the News Sentinel. Myself, Jerry Garrison, was a pro here, and Sam Snead. When Sam came, he started with a little exhibition. He went to the driving range, he hit a few balls left and right and high and low, told a few jokes. We go to the first tee. He wasn't worried about anybody else other than winning a match, beating you 18 up. Most competitive person I've ever seen in my life. And you can see his famous side saddle putting. He always had a reputation of being a horrible putter, but he was one of the best putters I ever played with. That's 14 green in the top right. More recently, in 2010, we had Gary Woodland, who just won the U.S. Open, win the Knoxville Open qualifier out at Kahiti. So we had two famous pros work here. But in the village, currently, I'm the chair of the Highway Safety Committee. And that committee is working very hard. We have some great people on it. First of all, we start as an interface with TDOT. So every time there's a construction meeting between the contractor and TDOT on the 321 Highway 11 project, Dennis Beard is there. And he's expressing our displeasure with the amount of time that intersection has taken to get it opened. The committee is also has been working in the past, and you saw the turn lanes put in by the safety committee. We're working currently on some Highway 411 and Niles Ferry intersections, some safety improvements there, and put intersection lighting down at 72 and 444, and a acceleration ramp on 444 coming off 321. So those are some of the things we have in the works, and that's it.
And now let's hear from another person from Tellico Village, Dave Hutchins, who is the liaison to the HOA from the state in Tellico Village, and he has an interesting perspective to share with you.
Hi, I'm Dave Hutchins. I'm truly sorry I can't attend this afternoon's HOA 30th anniversary celebration. But Lois and I are hosting our 20th family reunion here, and it begins tonight. And we want to be with our 6 sons and their families. And by the way, our motto this year at the reunion is excess in moderation. And that has nothing to do with the image of Viagra Falls running behind me here. When we came here today, nearly 20 years ago, the village only had maybe 3,000 souls compared to maybe 8,000 now. Back in the day, I was mostly involved with the POA, not the HOA. I chaired the POA Communications Committee, and I served 2 terms on the POA board. Back in the day, there was a palpable tension between the POA and the HOA that bordered on nastiness. That tension really doesn't exist now, and we seem to have reached a peaceful and beneficial coexistence, the POA and the HOA. I now serve on the HOA board as the representative of the Stay in TV organization, and we appreciate the HOA's support as we carry out our mission of helping folks stay in the village as long as possible. While I was on the POA board, I also wrote a weekly column for the Knoxville News Sentinel called Teleco Talk. It was a lighthearted and sometimes irreverent look at the goings-on around here. We coined a few words along the way. For example, when I did a piece on the first residents of Kahiti, I dubbed the folks out there Kahitians. That name stuck, and the Kahitians call themselves that to this day. Descriptive terms for people and happenings in the village often used the prefix tele in the column. Thus, a trophy wife became a telebabe, and an unruly grandchild was a telebrat. But the term many villagers remember was coined after a yacht club buffet dinner. The club had put out 75 pounds of pulled pork, which should have been plenty with all the fixings that came with it. Alas, the yacht club made the mistake of allowing everyone to help themselves. And indeed, they did help themselves. Some folks behaved like pigs, piling on mounds of pulled pork, which soon was depleted. And the club had to feed something else to the unhappy folks at the back of the line. In my column the following week, I referred to those bodacious buffet bombardiers as telepiggies. Some of you may remember that term, and people actually still ask me about it. But telepiggies or not, I'm still a huge fan of this wonderful place called Teleco Village. Just try taking it away from me. You'll have to pry my cold, dead fingers from my glass of Cabernet. Have a good time.
Thanks, Dave. I know you can't hear us, but I hope you're having a great time with your family tonight. In my research, I was surprised of the HOA logos of the year. It's been 4 logos, and they're right here. But a lot of changes here. But what hasn't changed over the past many, many years has been Winston Blazer as general manager of the POA. So I'm going to ask Winston to come up and say a few words.
I am smiling. Good afternoon. Happy 30th birthday, Ken, Ellen, HOA. I want to welcome all of you. Just a few things I want to reflect on. Ken asked me to say a few things about my experience here at Teleco Village, 26 years now. The most notable thing, and I'm sure you all experience this every day, when I started, there was 321, and then the Teleco Parkway, which is now 444. And on some mornings, I'd be a little late. And unlike today, I had 2 traffic lights on 321. I had the one at 11, and then there was one at McDonald's. And if I was lucky and God willing, both of those lights were green, and so I could easily whip through Lenoir City and get to work with no trouble. Today, sometimes it's better off if I take 321 and go home. I say this in reference to you all of you here and all of you that are here in the village. We have over 4,400 homes either built or in progress right now. Did 13 more this morning that were permitted. The secret is getting out, and to all of you, you've made a great decision. It's a great place to live. But I'd like to speak to the volunteerism that takes place in Teleco Village. People come in that don't really know the environment. They kind of pass through and they look at this and they look at our amenities and they look at our our structures and our golf and docks and all the different things we have. And they, you know, they nod and say, this is nice, this is great. I look at it as the people and the volunteerism and everything that you all have built. This wasn't built by the developer. This institution right here is exactly one of them. It was built by all of you and the energy and the volunteerism that you put into this community. Great minds, great effort, a lot of work. Sometimes there's a little angst, a little grind takes place. But in the end, as Dave referred to, it all works out and all comes together. And I think a great round of applause is to the HOA for helping see that that happens, and to all of you, the property owners that live here and have worked here and volunteered here and made this a great place. So congratulations to the HOA, and more importantly, congratulations to all you. A round of applause to you.
Thank you, Winston, for those kind words. Now we'll bring John Bordelon, HOA president in 2017. So discuss some of the changes over the last, here you go, 30 years.
Good. Yes. Good. Thank you, Ken. I learned a little something at the start of this meeting, which I always do when you talk about the history here, and you hear some of the street names, and I'd personally like to meet whoever picks some of these names, because it really is difficult. And, you know, I thought the origin was not from Michigan, but perhaps Wisconsin. Cheese Kogili and Cheese Tana, I thought those were Wisconsin cheeses. I just learned an effort, but I did have Mimi and John back there correct me. They actually mean red crayfish and green crayfish, respectively. So there is something behind some of it. But it's my pleasure to talk a little bit about some of the things that are changing very quickly here in Tellico Village that we have to adapt to, all of us. Good news is we're getting younger, folks. Tellico Village is. Our median age has dropped from 71 to 68. And why is that? That's because the influx of new people are averaging about 62 and a half. But the bad news, folks, we're getting older. So much so that about a third of our population is 75 years or older. So about 1/3 of the village. That gap that extends between the 62, which is just the median, and the high, which is probably as much as 90, 93 on some of the older or more senior villagers here, is creating quite a challenge for us all here relative to services that the POA has to do, to HOA, to social programs and everything else. And add with that the fact that social media has come about and it's challenging us. Some people are very conversant, know how to communicate that way. Other people still have their landline phones and they want to get the newspaper. So that's what we're dealing with, and part of the challenges we have to do. We have to continue to add value to keep people coming back again for HOA in the future. We've gone from 286 households in the early years to nearly 2,000. That's about 50% of the residents, the homes. Social events, our socials routinely draw about 250 people. We still have signature events like the Christmas Gala and cruises. They sell out. They sell out so fast that they have to add a second event to try to accommodate some of those crowds. And with 127 offerings this past year, it's going to continue to grow. But the only thing that holds it back is the availability of people, volunteers to sponsor and support it. People come to socials not just to sign up for events, but to meet their neighbors. That's why we're all here in Tellico Village. We like our friends, we like our neighbors. And I'll share with you one real quick story here. At one of the socials a while back, somebody raised their hand and said, I'm a retired CIA employee. I'd like to start a club. And just that one little thing happened, and sure enough, it must have been some clandestine event or something, but I heard about 2 years later that there was a CIA club in Tellico Village. Can you imagine what it's like? I bet nobody knows where they worked, where they live, what their real name is, but they're still out there. So I'm kidding about their real names, but there apparently is one of these clubs out there. Some successes, real quickly, 4 key successes of HOA that I'd like to hit on. Tellico Life, you've heard it mentioned, established in 2017. We now have 42 member organizations in it. POA is the latest with some of the departments of POA. You just go on the website, click on any one of the calendar links, and it will show you what the schedule is for the rec department, for certain events at the wellness center, and so forth. The same thing occurs. We have all 5-member churches here in the village signed up. They put all of their events on it. We also have community service organizations like Kiwanis, Lines, Tellico Village Broadcasting, and others who post their events and their activities, and as well as village clubs. I don't see CIA Club on there yet. We've got to work on them. Hint, 2,700 users, 6,300 sessions with 28,000 page views in an average week. The other major accomplishments I would like to hit on quickly, Highway Safety Committee, which used to be called the TDOT Liaison Committee. All the paving work that you saw out here, there's new turn lanes, there's highway safety improvements, there's passing lane improvements, signage. All of that was a result of numerous meetings with TDOT, so much so that they listened to the advice and recommendations of our volunteer committee, and they then moved forward and issued those specifications to the contractor in their improvements. 4 to 8 general meetings a year, very much like this one, ranging from cybersecurity to health and wellness type of programs and so forth. Those will continue. That is the lifeblood of the HOA. And lastly, I think it was alluded, I think Dave mentioned something, but one thing I'm particularly proud of, and I want to say a thanks to Bruce out here, the POA board, the POA staff, is I think we've nurtured a very healthy and constructive relationship with the POA. It's critical for us to go forward. We have to work together. We're all neighbors. We're all in this together, and we want the very best for. So I look forward to at least from my perspective and interest in HOA, and making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. John mentioned the social activities. In 1990, there were about 10 activities for the entire year. In 2018, there were 127, and so far in 19, we've already done 74. This can be kind of overwhelming to new residents.
My glasses. Look around. All right. I'm going this way. No, you're coming here with me. No, we're not goodbye. Come on, we're going over here.
Carl. I don't think poor Carl got any of his in, but okay. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Ellen and do some recognitions.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim Noonan, photographer extraordinaire. So we're getting an awful lot of accolades this year, but we really recognize this is accolades for 30 years of volunteers. We just happen to be standing here right now. So there have been 30 years of HOA presidents. I don't know if there's any here, but if you are a past president, if you would just stand, and we'll ask you to remain standing for a minute. It's just something we want to thank you. Come on, Sue, thank you. It's a big job, and it wouldn't be done without these people. If you can remain standing, because now there's a current board, please. Anybody affiliated with the 2019 board, if you would also stand. Please don't be shy, stand up. If you're helping with our social events, if you're an event coordinator, if you're a greeter at any of our socials, I would ask you to stand up, please, and let us say thank you to you guys also. It wouldn't happen without you, any of you. Thank you. And if you've ever been to an HOA event, I would ask you to stand up and look at the impact and the people here. Thank you. 30 years of volunteerism is pretty magnificent. Thank you. Kim? So as we start some of the recognitions, I was remiss earlier, but as you come up, we'll do some of them down on the floor by the podium, but Jim's going to ask to take a picture. So we want to preserve it for history, so we're going to pause and make sure he gets our good side, none of the bad sides. Right, Jim?
Talking about volunteerism, and I thought a perfect person to talk about volunteer would be Phil Fulmer from the UT. So let's listen
This
here.
is Coach Philip Fulmer, Athletics Director at the University of Tennessee. I'm aware the HOA of Tellico Village will be celebrating 30 years of community service during 2019. As a former coach and now athletics director, I value teamwork and unselfish contributions to the success of our teams, just like the many HOA volunteers have provided to Tellico Village. Please accept my congratulations to the HOA on achieving this milestone, and we wish you the best in the future. Go Vols!
Thanks, Coach. Okay, now we're going to move into the part of the program. We're going to have some recognition from a lot of important people here today. So we're going to go down lower level, and we'll start it. So,
Jeff. Jeff Harris, Loudoun City Mayor.
Thank you. I want to congratulate the HOA on 30 years. Don't like to follow Philip Fulmer, but, you know, I did ask to be moved up in the program. I asked for you to excuse me after this is over. I'm the director of student ministries at our church in Loudoun. We're in Bible school this week, so we have to get that to go to after this. But it was indeed an honor for me to be here and celebrate this occasion. I have a proclamation I'd like to read. Whereas it is important to acknowledge the roles, history, and the contributions made by dedicated individuals to improve the overall well-being of Tellico Village. And whereas it is important to acknowledge that the Tellico Village Homeowners Association provides long-term opportunities for its members, including Tellico Village Homeowners Association representation and attendance to the Tellico Village Property Owners Association board meetings and its many working committees. And whereas it is important to acknowledge the Tellico Village Homeowners Association provides liaisons to the City of Loudoun, Loudoun County, Monroe County governments, the Tennessee Valley Authority, Tennessee Department of Transportation, Stain Tellico Village, and the Tellico Village Library. And whereas it is important to acknowledge the important organizations started by the Tellico Village Homeowners Association, such as Neighborhood Watch, and whereas it is important to acknowledge contributions of the Tellico Village Homeowners Association leading and then becoming a founding partner of Tellico Life. And whereas the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village was formed January 1989, and whereas it is important to celebrate 30 years of continuous Tellico Village Homeowners Association presence in Tellico Village, delivering value to Tellico Village homeowners through informative and engaging programs while promoting social fellowship, civic responsibility, and providing a voice for homeowner concerns, which will be celebrated on June 20th, 2019. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Harris, as Loudoun City Mayor, would like to recognize and thank the Tellico Village Homeowners Association for their 30 years of committed service and volunteerism to our community. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Can you take a picture? Now, we'll leave a copy of this for Ms. Fox, and it could be framed for you to keep.
Thank you. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you. It's
We're
my
very
pleasure.
honored. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. Then I think for the rest, we're going in alphabetical order. Is that correct?
I think so. So, what's it doing? Oh, here we go.
To my friends at Tellico Village, congratulations on 30 years to the Homeowners Association. Hi, I'm Mayor of Lenore City and would like to present you with a proclamation. I apologize I was able to attend, but I did want to present the proclamation to you. Whereas the governing body of the City of Lenore City has adopted a policy of recognizing and honoring outstanding individuals, establishments, and organizations within our community. And whereas the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village began in January of 1989, nested in the Tellico Village in the foothills of Tennessee's Great Smoky Mountains, along with Tellico Lake, and is dedicated to improving the overall well-being of Tellico Village. And whereas the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village mission is to deliver value to the Tellico Village homeowners through informative and engaging programs while promoting social fellowship, civic responsibilities, and provides a voice for the homeowners' concerns. And whereas the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village has been involved in various activities, including bus trips to Biltmore, dining out at our local restaurants, and making Tellico Village a great place to foster friendships and a wonderful place to live and get involved. And whereas the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village strives to keep homeowners informed of changes with road work and bridge work. And whereas the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village will celebrate 30 years of service June the 20th, 2019. Now for be it proclaimed by Tony R. Akins, Mayor of Lenore City, that the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village be honored for their great service. Be it further proclaimed that a copy of this resolution, or a copy of this proclamation, signed by the mayor, attested to by the city recorder, and bearing the great seal of the city, be presented to the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village. Congratulations, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Mayor Akins really wished he could have been here, but he asked me to present the proclamation to the president of the HOA on his behalf.
Thank you. And again, on behalf of 30 years of volunteers, we are delighted to accept it. Thank you.
Okay. So this would be...
Buddy? This is Buddy Bradshaw, County Mayor.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Well, if he wants a cute picture, he's probably picked the wrong one to stand here. We got a lot of our facts. I think myself, Mayor Harris, and Mayor Akins got a lot of the same fact sheet, maybe. Our resolutions are very similar. If you'll bear with me, I'm just going to tell a quick story, and I promise I'll be brief, even for a politician. My first job as a 15-year-old was mowing yards here in Tellico Village. Now, I always took the back roads because at 15 I didn't have a driver's license, but nonetheless I came over and had about half of the yards on Chastana Way. And it's like, you may say, wow, that's a lot. Not really, because there was only 6 houses back in 1987. So, but I did have 3 of them, and also worked for Cooper Communities in the summer of 1990 before I went to college. And so I've seen Tellico Village grow, and I can tell you, not just from me seeing it grow, but as a county mayor, how much the village means to our county, how important it is for our county and our success. When Tellico Village is successful, Loudoun County is successful, and that's just a fact. I'm not going to do the first part of the proclamation. I also thank Commissioner Mears, Commissioner Cullen for coming up, and they also serve. These are also our budget committee members as well, so we are in charge of helping to keep the cost of living in Loudoun County low. But I am going to read the final chapter, the final paragraph. It says that now, therefore, on this 20th day of June in the year of our Lord, 2019, that Loudoun County Mayor Buddy Bradshaw and the Loudoun County Commission does recognize the service, value, and dedication of the TVHOA to Tellico Village and to Loudoun County, and wish to honor the TVHOA do declare this day to be Tellico Village Homeowners Association Day in Loudoun County, and this proclamation to be forever recorded in the annals of Loudoun County history. It's an honor for us to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. An honor for us to have you here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Henry next. Henry, I think you and Dave, oh, please, I need to keep it. Thank you.
You gotta get Henry to sign it. He's your chair.
Okay. Henry, I think you're up next.
Good afternoon, everybody. And to Ellen Fox, my fellow Connecticut Yankee, congratulations on 30 years for the HOA. For me, I've been here for 16 of those 30. And Ellen and Gail asked me, be sure to tell them what you've done in those 16 years. Well, I moved here, and in 2004, I was elected the fire chief of the fire department. At the time I took over, we had 17 members, very little funds, outdated equipment. With those dedicated 17 volunteers, we put into place the model for the fire department that exists today, that is recognized as the most respected amenity in the village. I sat out a couple of years and burned some fuel up on the lake. And in 2014, Don Miller decided he wasn't going to run again as commissioner. A lot of people asked me if I would run. And I said, well, I'm not a politician. I came from Ford Motor Company. So they asked me if I'd run, and I studied what it was involved. And I said, well, heck, I got 34 years of senior management at Ford. This can't be too hard. Little did I know. I was elected in 2014, re-elected last year. I currently have served 5 years on the Budget Committee, and I'm currently the chairman of the Loudoun County Commission. Kathy and I enjoy our time here. It is absolutely paradise, and I can tell you, other than growing up in my hometown, this is the longest I have ever lived in a place. Ford Motor Company has sent me all over the United States. Omaha, Nebraska, Detroit, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Washington, D.C., and I retired out of Atlanta. Again, congratulations on 30 years, and I want you to know Kelly got held up at the doctor's office, or she would be here. Dave, myself, and Kelly, watch out for your best interest on the Loudoun County Commission.
Thank you, Henry, David, and Kelly. We're grateful for your help. Now, Mr. Bruce Johnson, please, our POA President of the Board of Directors.
Ellen, thank you guys for inviting me to come up here and speak. If anybody watches TVB and the presentations we make when we do the board update, you know very quickly how I feel about the HOA. I think that you are a companion organization to the POA, and with our work and your work, we're looking out for the welfare of the village. And as the old saying goes, for the last 3 or 4 years that I've been involved in board, I've tried to make our relationship as snug as a bug in a rug. And so we look forward to continuing that relationship, and I know that we'll continue to work together for the good of the village. As I was thinking of what I could say or do, I thought if I were Marilyn Monroe, I would sing a rendering and a rendition a vigorous one of happy birthday. Are you ready?
I don't know.
No, I'm not going to do it. But the board has asked me if I would present to the HOA, the TVPOA's President's Award for Lifetime Achievement, and I would like to read it to you. To the Homeowners Association, in recognition of the Tellico Village Homeowners Association's 30th birthday, and in appreciation of its sustained superior service to the village residents, the Tellico Village Property Owners Association presents to the HOA the President's Award for Lifetime Achievement. Over the years, the HOA has served the village extremely well, spawning programs and events such as the POA Candidate Night, Stay in Tellico Village, and Highway 444 Safety. They have also been the voice of the village. Through their actions, the HOA has brought great credit to their organization, Tellico Village, and the greater community. We thank you so much for your service and all that you do for the village.
Thank you. Once again, on behalf of 30 years of volunteers in HOA, I want to thank the board. Thank you. This is very nice, very meaningful. Thank you. Thank you.
No.
Jimmy, could we invite Jimmy Matlock? Thank you.
Well, it's an honor and privilege to be back where I am among friends and people who I've learned to respect so much, like Representative Russell now gets to do. I served this community for 12 years, and it was an incredible privilege and honor. And I thank you for giving me that chance to take your values to Nashville. I've been blessed to be a resident of this county, maybe longer than anybody in the church today. Our family came to Loudoun County in 1805. I still live on that same piece of property today. Our children would be the 7th generation. But nothing has changed maybe as much as this area of Loudoun County. I had talked to Shauna earlier, and she's heard me give this remark probably 10 times at the legislature or at events here at the village or economic events throughout the county. And I like to tell about you. And I've told about your volunteerism, but it's really been already highlighted a lot today. One thing that came to my mind as we were going through the slides and talking among ourselves and what was happening, there's really been 3 major occurrences in the last 85 years that have affected this region and this county dramatically. In 1939, it's already been pointed out that TVA came to this area and opened up into flood control, economic development, electricity, all the things that they brought to us. Later, about 3 years later, the Manhattan Project came just over the hillside. Now, people say, well, Jimmy, that's not Loudoun County. No, it's not, but thousands of people traveled from here as far away as Bradley County to go to that project, which, as we know, changed the world history. And then in 1979, the incorporation of this community and what we now see today. Without those 3 things, I'm not sure what we would have in this area, what we would do today. But I've got to watch the changes. I'm 60 years old. I've lived among and around and watched what influences that you have. Earlier it was said by one of the speakers, the fabric of this community. And I thought that was a real interesting word, because the fabric of a community is, to me, 3 different things. It's economics, and I didn't hear the statistics. The mayor maybe had to leave earlier, but at one time you controlled 38% of the entire economic activity in this county. That's incredible. You, at one time, were 68% of all volunteers. Child advocacy, Boys and Girls Club, the computer club here that does so much, every area that has been a giver. You know, there's really 2 different types of people in the world. There's the takers. Tragically, we see a lot of them. And there's the givers. And herein is a room full of givers. But the last part of that fabric, we talked about the social part of it earlier, and that was how we treat each other, how we interact with each other, how we respond to each other, and that's very important. But you know, we're inside of the sanctuary, and there's not really a lot said. Maybe we stay away from it on occasion for reasons, but the spiritual aspect of the fabric of a community. This church, the Catholic Church, First Baptist, the Lutheran Church, all of the bodies of faith that have really been incorporated into this area make my part, which is way out north, and the part in Philadelphia, and the part in Greenback, a much better place to live. So from an old timer who's lived here and someone who's had the privilege of taking your story around the state, I want to say thank you. And again, to the board and the entire body who've given so much for many years, what a wonderful event this is. Thank you for letting me be a part of that, and to all of you, a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. He's just going to take a picture. Thanks. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce our representative, Lowell Russell.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be your representative. You know, we can hang it out in the garden. But anyways, it's an honor to be your representative, and I just want to tell you, it's a hard job I'm sure the HOA has, but what makes it easier for them is the people that they represent, and that's you all, that they can do their job. I'm reminded of the people that work for the animal shelter and volunteer their time for that, and people like Bonnie Weaver that feeds the hungry kids, and Kathy Orcutt that does the Hugs for Soldiers, and Henry Cullen that volunteers his time for the fire department and works on the county commission. So thank you, HOA, for 30 years of hard work, and you're making a difference, just like each and every one of y'all are making a difference. I talked to Lieutenant Governor McNally as I pulled in here today, and he apologizes he can't be here. He had a schedule conflict, but he and I got together and we drafted this proclamation. Most of it's already been said, so I'm going to read the last two paragraphs. And it says, whereas for 30 years, the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village has had a continuous presence in the community, delivering value to homeowners through informative and engaging programs, while providing social fellowship, civic responsibility, and a voice for homeowners' concerns, and it should be recognized. Now therefore, Glenn Cassida, Speaker of the House of Representatives of the 111th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, and Randy McNally, Speaker of the Senate, at the request of and in conjunction with Representative Lowell Russell, do hereby proclaim that we honor and commend the Homeowners Association of Tellico Village for 30 years of excellence and extend to its residents our best wishes for much continued success in the future. Proclaimed in Nashville, Tennessee on this 20th day of June, 2019. So thank you all. If I can ever be of assistance, please give my office a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Lowell. Again, on behalf of 30 years of everybody this room represents, we want to thank you. Thank you. That was very nice.
It's an honor.
Thank you.
Okay, here you go.
So, what do we think HOA is going to look like in the future? We've looked back through the past a little bit, and so we took a look out to 2029. And when we turn 40, my prediction is we're going to continue to be of great value. village organizations and the local charities you heard a lot of mention of are going to be staffed by the dedicated and ingenious volunteers that live here in the village. 100% of the villagers are going to be HOA members. There will still be so many HOA social events, it'll be hard to pick from them. But in 10 years, 80% of our villagers are going to be voting in local and POA board elections. We're going to have more multi-dwelling units that have been built, and our beautiful lake is going to remain just as unspoiled and the centerpiece as it is today. So we can test in 10 years how many of these come true, but I'm pretty thinking all of them. So I want to thank you. There are 2 boxes to put your trivia questions out as you exit in the lobby. This only happens because of a mass of volunteers that get involved for HOA and do it. But I do really want to single out Ken Lichtke. As he delved into this, his passion for telling the story of HOA volunteerism. Ken, if you can come up for 1 minute, please. It's just amazing. He put in a great effort, and it's a great legacy for this organization. So thank you, Ken.
Well, thanks for those kind words. I had help from a lot of people, and if I start to name them, I'm going to leave somebody out, so I'm not going to do that. But I think you know who helped me on this, and greatly appreciate all of you. It's fantastic, and there's so much rich history here, and the people are so special. The spirit of volunteerism is so strong in this village, and it continues on.
Here's to all of us. Thank you. Thank you, and there were cool prizes I forgot to mention for the trivia contest, so make sure if you're eligible, you put your ballot in. Thank you all. Thank you very much.